Welcome back to another episode of the Freedom Achievers podcast. My name is David Kurz, and I am your host. And today we are sitting in Doral, Florida, and we're in this amazing studio hosted by PRMG. And I am joined by Jennyffer Kurz, the illustrious queen of the Freedom Organization. Hello.
Hello. What's up, guys?
How are you? And then I have Mones with us, our chief marketing guru.
Bang, 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 bang. Yeah, that's me, guys. What's going on?
I knew something stupid was coming.
Soundtrack.
You know, I was gonna.
I hyped myself up. Yeah, it's crazy.
I was gonna say the illustrious queen and our jester.
That's messed up.
See, but then you wouldn't have said the joke, and then you know
I would have held back. You
would have held back. You would have. All right, man. We have a great show for you guys today. We're gonna touch on some topics. You know, we're in Miami, Florida, so we definitely want to talk a little bit about how Miami pricing is still out of control. Mm-hmm. We're going to be touching on that subject. We're going to touch a little bit on mortgage rates. And, you know, I think we're going to definitely come to you guys with some information on the rates, but more so how to look at these rates and how to still think about owning property during these rates. And I think that's the important subject here. And then last night, very interesting, we were on the news. We were watching one of our agents talk about Realtor Safety. And so we're going to touch on that a little bit. Apparently a realtor was assaulted here in South Florida by a gentleman that was claiming to want to buy properties. He was new in town, so forth, so on. They drew a gun on her and so forth, but we'll get into that in a minute. And then finally, we're going to close the show talking about emojis and your feelings and how much I care about them. So, and mind you, you know, this is Freedom Achievers and podcast is really tied to our Freedom Organization, Freedom Coaching. So if you guys have not signed up for our Freedom Coaching platform, sign up for free at thefreedomsop.com, like standard operating procedure. It's thefreedomsop.com. Once you're inside thefreedomsop.com, you'll have access to many of our courses for free. You have access to our Realtor feed for free, or a community feed, I should say, where realtors can ask questions, comment, and get together. So ideally, our goal is to offer this platform for free to the first 1,000 agents that join our platform. We're really excited about that. We only have about 895 spots left. So we will get to 1,000 rather quickly, and we're very excited about it. And every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, I host a private webinar, and that webinar can be registered at thefreedomcoaching.com. So just go to thefreedomcoaching.com, register for that webinar, and you'll have access to our weekly webinar, which we host on Zoom, but at some point we'll convert into the Freedom Achievers platform. And we'll be going live in there versus Zoom. So you'd actually have to be in the platform to watch our training. So that'll be coming very soon, and we're super pumped about that. So guys, let's dig into this real quick because the market's shifting.
Yep.
Things are happening. Interest rates are going up. Less people are buying. More homes are hitting the market. I expect we're about 6 to 12 months away from seeing more expired leads hit the market, or more expired listings hit the market, more FSBOs hit the market because they don't believe what's happening and they think realtors don't know what they're doing, right? And more so, I think we're going to start to see an influx of short sales and foreclosures due to all the people that took money out of their homes as the home prices were rising in a significant level. So speaking about all that, Miami rents and prices are still out of control.
I mean, the lack of inventory is really what it's at, and where it's at. You talk about supply and demand. If there's a lack of supply, there's going to be, you know, a lot more demand than expected on a normal market, and therefore people are going to drive themselves out of the market. Especially, I think in the rental, we're going to be seeing a lot of that because they can't qualify for a mortgage the way that they did less than a year ago. So their ability to purchase, which is where they were looking at, okay, if I purchase now, I'm going to be making smaller payments than if I were to rent in comparison to how it was.
So, Jen, you're a lender, and you see this all the time. And I actually We saw it recently. Gene and I saw it recently with a listing that went on the market. And we had a gentleman who's a friend of ours, right? Anthony, you know Anthony, right? Big Tony. And he had like 3 buyers. And he was like, Dave, I got the perfect people for this. Let me try them out. And all 3 of them were priced out of the market.
Yeah. And that's what's happening. That's what I'm referring to right now. They're being priced out of the market. They don't qualify anymore. Their debt to income ratio is higher. And it's just, they have to rent. So now what's happening? A lot of people are looking, there's probably investors looking at properties right now as opportunities to be able to rent them out. We don't know how long that's going to last, but people can't afford the purchase, so they're going to have to go rent. And how do they rent when the rental prices are so high?
I think that's the real issue. Where do people go from here? I feel like people are just going to have to leave Miami, right? If you can live in Miami and you can afford Miami, stay in Miami.
Yeah.
If you cannot live and afford Miami anymore, you're going to have to move. You're going to have to go to places like Cape Coral and Naples and the west coast of Florida that's still affordable. And by the way, the prices there went up too, right?
Yeah, it's crazy out there.
But what we're starting to also see is their prices are coming down a little bit, not like us, right? And so you start to see that in Jacksonville and the Panhandle, start to see it in places like that where, the Miami, man, I have this theory, right? And you know who we need to have on this show? You guys remember Anna?
Yes.
Right? Analytics, man. We have to bring her on the show because I have this theory that Miami is finally making its way to becoming a major expensive city, like a major city. Let's call it that, right? And major cities are typically expensive, right? So if you go to San Diego, Los Angeles, New York, right? San Fran, right? Those are expensive cities. It's expensive to live there. And if you live there because you can afford it or you have 4 roommates, right? Like, and it's funny that we say that because I just read an article yesterday that said New York City rents are coming down, not in the luxury market though. So, right? So there's a division there. The non-luxury rentals in New York, their prices are coming down. The luxury rentals, they're finding that they're not coming down because they're still sought after. Yeah. Those who can afford to live there will live there. That's what's happening in Miami, right? So like, man, it was like 3 years ago, you could buy a home for, $300,000-$400,000. And that was easy. Right? That was all FHA. It was very easy to do. You can get, $275, $350, $360. Those were doable prices, $425 for a decent home. Yeah. Now those same homes are $500,000, $600,000, $700,000.
Yeah, upwards. Like the increase in the pricing for these properties is ridiculous. In 2021, I think it went up by 20%. The value of the property.
And when you think about that, you think about the affordability, right? That's been the conversation around the country is if interest rates go up, then affordability is reduced. And if affordability is reduced, it reduces the amount of buyers that can buy. And if that happens, well, then prices theoretically have to come down. Yeah. Or do they?
I think Miami's its own market, man. But
there is a chance that a lot of these people who have purchased just recently, thinking that, in a year or so, with the way that the market is moving, I'm going to sell again and make a profit and so forth. There is a chance that these people might just decide, I bought a year or so ago and my mortgage is so low, I can just rent out the property. So it's a matter of time when we'll probably see more rentals come into the market because the sellers cannot sell as fast or at the value that they intended to when they originally purchased.
So that's a good analyzation because what you're basically saying is sellers hit the market, they have a difficult time selling for market value. And so they say, you know what? I bought this with a 2.75% interest rate. My mortgage is acceptable and rents are stupid high right now. So I'm just going to rent this unit out and go move to, wherever the heck they're moving to. And get out of Miami because everything's here expensive, by the way. Restaurants, every restaurant that's coming up is like a bougie restaurant right now. Like there's no, there's a lack of affordability even in
as a whole with
going
everything.
out. Right. Like Jen and I went to breakfast the other day. Like breakfast, okay, breakfast $80 at breakfast. in a Cuban spot that has been there since the 70s.
Yeah.
Right? I went to, Louis, I went to Sergio's the other day, and yes, Sergio's, I'm going to put your ass out there, you
Was
criminal
it
mother.
Sergio's or was it Islas?
No, it was Sergio's. I went to Sergio's with my kid the other day, and I grabbed the menu, and it says churrasco, market price. I said, what? When was the last time you saw that cheap-ass piece of meat market price?
For real.
Market price. Like it's a lobster, bro. Like, like it's Wagyu or something. This shit ain't Wagyu, this Publix.
Well, like you're eating in a fancy restaurant too, right?
Yeah.
So, like you expect that in a fancy restaurant.
It's
right?
Sergio's.
Well, because it's quality meat, so it just depends on what it's.
That's the thing, though. Churrasco is not the most quality meat. It's flat meat.
Exactly.
Like it's the premium meat for Argentinians, and Cubans have made it a very illustrious like meal to have when you go out. Premium meat is Wagyu sirloin.
Yeah.
Premium meat is a beautiful T-bone. That's premium. A ribeye if you want that fatty in there. But these guys got a price on ribeye for $35, and then they got churrasco at market value. So I asked the lady, I said, what's the market value on your lobster churrasco? And she starts laughing, and she says, it's $39.
Wow, at Sergio's.
$39 for flap steak.
That's crazy. Probably
Right?
tiny too, right? Probably like a little
Listen,
tiny
we
piece.
make steak at the house all the time. I know the price of steak. I know it's going up. I know food is expensive. Things are going up, but for $40, I could feed like 8 people in my house with that steak. We chop it up. We make it. Everybody eats their little bit,
Buy it from Costco. We got the really good.
Yeah. That's insanity, bro. That's not even right. And it's not okay. And you know what that proves? That not only are the prices going up, but now the consumers are being abused. Right? It gets to a point where consumers are being abused. And that's not right.
Well, everything. I mean, if their pricing on meals is that much, think about a tip. Like now, are we reducing the tip for the waiters and waitresses because
does
all of a
15%
sudden
stay
it's
the
just too
norm?
expensive?
No.
I mean, they're doing it to us in the real estate market, where because everything is just so expensive, they just and it's so easy to sell. Regardless,
they want to reduce your commission. Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have to be very careful out there. We talk about Miami, and Miami is yes, we're out of control, guys. And so, but I don't mind it. To be very honest with you, I don't mind it. I'm blessed enough to work in an industry where I get to coach amazing people who sell real estate. And I've got a great sales team. And we sell these expensive ass houses, right? Yeah. And so I'm not upset about it. I do understand the folks that are talking about things like gentrification and the movement of people and the movement of communities. I get that. I do. I get it because I saw it in New York. I grew up in New York City. I grew up in the Bronx, and I saw it happening there, and I remember going back to visit in New York and passing by the old block, and I've got this thing that I do. When I go to New York, I always go by the old block, and I drive down the old block one time just to remind myself where I came from and where I never want to return to, right? I always do that. My boys hate me for that, but,
It is what it is.
You're still there, bro. So, but I do that, and I drive, and I ran into some of my old childhood friends. And so I remember getting out the car, talking to them, and they go, bro, this was like 6 years ago. Bro, your apartment, how much is renting for right now? And I was like, how much? Now, mind you, my mom was on rent control, right? So I think we paid like $250 a month for that place.
I have no idea.
Wow.
$2,500 a month to live in a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom, small apartment in the Bronx. And I was like, you're kidding me, right? And at that time, for $2,500 a month in Miami, you could do okay.
A nice house.
You know what I mean? It was pretty. And I was like, you guys are insane. Well, that's the direction that Miami's heading. And by the way, with all due right and respect, because Miami is building itself as a business industry, as a Southern Wall Street, as a financial district, as a place where businesses want to be, as a place where Amazon wants to operate out of, a place where, major corporations want to move down here to have tax breaks, but they don't want to be in Disney. Yeah. They want to be in South Florida. So they come to Miami, they come to Palm Beach, they come to Fort Lauderdale. And I honestly believe that's why these three places down here, that Tri-County area, is still strong.
Yeah. I think everything that's happening is definitely a bigger reason why people want to come, because essentially we are facing certain things in Florida with the water and the rain and all that stuff that's happening in Brickell and so forth. But even then, that doesn't stop people, because it's such a great place to be in, to just walk around and have all the restaurants and all the food and everything that you just don't find anywhere else. Yeah, I can't imagine myself being anywhere else. And I lived in Oregon for 5 years.
I'd rather deal with a little bit of water than having to plow snow. Yep. And wake up every morning.
Yeah, I don't want to plow snow.
Having to heat up your car first.
Yep.
To make sure that if it turns on, right? That's if it turns on.
I mean, I remember as a kid walking to school in the snow, and you like step in black ice, and you didn't realize it, and now your whole foot is soaking wet, and you still got to go to school.
Actually, in Portland, bro. Me driving in a bridge, black ice.
Yeah.
Oh man, so scary, dude.
Do you know
almost
that
got a couple times in an accident.
That's snowing right now. It's freaking October. Okay. And it's
by the way, it's if you guys want to visit Miami, this is a great time to visit. It's our winters coming up. It's going to be 68 degrees in the middle of the night this week. So
if you guys
if you want to wake up at 3 a.m, come on out and you can enjoy that cool weather, because by noon it's going to be 85 degrees again.
That is a fact.
So mortgage rates. We talking about, they're saying mortgage rates could get as high as 8.5% before the end of the year. Yep. I believe
there's going to be a couple hikes in November.
Yeah, I believe by next year we're at 10%. It's
highly possible.
Yeah, that's my theory.
The whole idea is to battle this inflation. And as much as we're talking about Miami, this is not just happening here, it's happening everywhere else. So people, I don't know if it's the remote thing or what happened with COVID, and that people have more money in their pocket or are able to do more work. I don't know what it is, but people have more money even with all of this. And essentially, they have to slow this down one way or another. Otherwise, it's how's anyone going to afford anything?
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing that right now. Even with the property, I had a couple properties that I was showing. I mean, the offers, we get offers here and there, right? But it wasn't like maybe 6-7 months ago, right? Now,
you had the lines,
people go, they love the house, and you're like, they're telling you, oh my God, I'm in love with this house.
And then the offer doesn't come through because
you're
they
still
got
waiting
options.
for the offer.
They got options. They got options.
Well, either that, options or the house they don't qualify for that one.
That's what I was going to say.
Either
that, they went back with the lender and they said, here's the house price, $475.
They ran the numbers.
Let me know what my numbers look like. And then they saw the numbers and they go, I can't do it.
Yeah.
I can't do it. Look, I think we live in a very unique world right now where we have probably the highest level of entrepreneurism we've ever had in the history of humanity, right? Like, we live in this great world where you can do what you love when you want, and you can actually make money doing it using the exposure of free tools. And if you do it well, you make money at it. And people are willing to pay for good products and good information. And I think that Miami is a beautiful hub for entrepreneurism.
It is. It is the largest.
Did you see that they approved that development? I think it's going to be one of the highest sky rises.
Yeah, in Miami.
Which one?
Yeah. It's a new one that's coming up, yeah.
It's a new one coming up. They just announced it. It was approved. I can't remember the name of it right now. You put me on the spot, bro.
It's Hout. Is it the Hout? No, that's not.
No, it's the tallest skyscraper in Miami. This is insane. It's still happening, right? Like somebody actually said it's a good idea. Let's build this multi-billion-dollar complex where nothing is going to be less than $1 million.
I think it's going to happen like in New York, right? Where it's going to start, Miami's going to start building up.
That scares me because of the coral and stuff like that. I just feel like so much weight on the coral, but I'm not an
engineer, so I'm going to let them do
that. How you would imagine that they're doing the right thing.
I just choose not to buy the penthouse.
or actually live in the penthouse in case Florida gets flooded, right?
Yeah, no, man. Your building comes down, we're screwed. So with interest rates being at 8.5%, maybe even facing 10% next year, price is not really budging in South Florida. I do feel that they will budge a little bit. Don't take this conversation like we're the shit. Like, South Florida is never going to change. We're always going to be.
No, we're feeling it.
We're going to be expensive. Right, it'll come down, but we're not going to be a cheap place to live anymore. And that will forever be true for us. As long as we maintain industry, we'll never be a cheap place to live in again. But the question is, how long does that last, right? And so at what point do we get to where condos are sitting on the market for 14 years again, right? What point do we get to where a single family home takes 9 to 18 months to sell? And what happens to the real estate agents in the industry that are banking on selling these homes that are not moving as quickly as they're used to?
I think a lot of agents that are new now that have no idea what real estate really is, and the efforts that it takes to market and expose the properties and so forth, unless they shift their mindset, because business doesn't, in a normal real estate market, unless you have a lot of prospects or a lot of business running, it just doesn't close right away. It's not what was 2021, so a lot of people are freaking out. I've already seen it. A lot of agents are freaking out. And they're trying. They don't know what to do.
Yeah. So the question is,
go ahead.
No. Do they shift with the market,
or
do they get out of the market? Because it
depends how dedicated they are.
Right. And so we know this is not going to happen. And realtors, I'm sorry, it's just not going to happen. Trust me, I'm your number one fan. If you're a real estate agent, I'm your number one fan. I love real estate agents. I love our industry. I coach real estate agents. I help succeed in real estate. Even if every single one of you guys out there became super dedicated, there would just not be enough business for you.
Yep. And
so natural human selection says,
we're doing this part-time.
We're doing this part-time, or we're getting out of it. Yeah. And 20% of you will make it happen. And it's because only 20% of you will do enough work to get the business that is actually available. Yeah. Does that make sense, right? Yeah. Like, so if there's 200 homes for sale, or 200 homes that are going to go on the market for sale, and there's 56,000 agents, like only 200 or less agents can put those listings up, right? So what happens to the rest of the agents?
They're working with buyers in the hopes that they make it.
And they're just making their rounds. Yeah. But a lot of them end up leaving the industry.
And I think a lot of that also, a lot of agents are going to have to look at, what their brokerage is doing for them, right? To help them grow, right? There's brokerages out there that are offering marketing material. They're offering, CRM systems and all that, maybe no monthly fees and all that, things that a lot of agents are
like
going to start.
Brokerage.
Yeah, like our brokerage, right? They're going to start transitioning to, because it just makes sense, right? Now,
because it helps them compete in the market. But, then once but regardless of that, there's a process. Like, you can have all the tools, but you got to use them. You can have a CRM, but if you're not doing the tasks necessary to add people to your CRM and to continue to follow up, then you're going to stay behind. But yes, people are going to start looking for more opportunities.
And I'm glad that you said that, because even there's a 20%, right? So let's say everyone decides, you know what, I love you guys. We're all going to join LPT Realty with you, right? And they all come and join us, and they all have free marketing material for every listing. They all have free CRM, no monthly fees, blah, 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 100% commission. Like, all this amazing stuff. Still, not everyone will succeed, because not everyone's going to put in the work. It's just, it is what it is. I wish I could say that everyone was going to put in the work and everyone was going to win, but that's just not realistic. Right.
And I think a lot of agents are going to have to look at, like, people with, like David, right? Mentorship from people like David, good coaching.
Look at coaching.
People who actually been through it already. Yeah. Right? Who's actually been through this.
You got coaches out there right now that have never, ever seen a down market.
Mm-hmm.
That's tough.
Yeah.
And they're trying to tell you how to run a business and do all this other stuff, but they've never, ever experienced a down market.
Yeah. And this is where the 30-year plus or 20-year plus realtor, they start saying, I got 20 years of experience. I got 30 years of experience.
But you can never beat a 20 year of experience with no freaking experience in this current market.
Oh, no.
That's true. But I will tell you this. That's where those quotes come in an understanding position, right? Because when you're a younger agent and you hear somebody say, I've been in real estate for 20 years, and you're like, come on, dude, chill. Like, that just means you're old and you're not in with the times. But no, the reality is that person in 20 years has probably seen 2 cycles already.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're going to have to give them props.
And by the way, if they've been doing this for 20 years, chances are they know what the fuck they're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
They'll school you on a contract.
You know what I mean?
They'll scratch everything off. They're gonna make sure that they're negotiating.
I mean, David, you were a short sale king, right?
Yeah, that's what I used to dub myself as, the short sale king. When the market shifted, we had no other opportunity. I did not know at the time how to go after REOs. I didn't know. And there were a lot of realtors that already had relationships with banks. And so they were getting those REOs from the banks and they were rocking them out, which is fine because even though short sales were a lot more work, I was getting 7 to 8% commissions plus short sale fees on my short sales, while REO agents were getting 1% for putting up their listing. And so I was like, you can have that, man. You know what I mean? Like I just need 2 of these for every 16 of yours. I'm good, you know? And the first year that the market really shifted and we did short sales, I did over 60 short sales by myself. And this was before.
Short sales are not the easiest.
No, they're not. And this was before all the cool stuff came out, like Equator and all these systems that banks came up with to really organize themselves and get it right. I wasn't excited when all those systems came out because the banks got super organized and they started cutting down commissions. But in the meantime, I was making a killing.
Yeah.
And it was just simply because I understood. And I'm not going to say I understood because I was fairly new to the industry, but I knew I had to do something.
You put the effort.
I knew I had to do something. And somebody said, short sales are popping right now. And you know what it was? It was a friend of mine. His name's Eddie Diepa. I'll give him a big shout out, man. He's an attorney. He is an attorney. But at the time, he owned his own law firm. And he was doing foreclosure defense, bankruptcy, and things of that nature. And in that process, he said to me, he said, Dave, we do these, foreclosure defense cases. But at some point, the judge is going to say, okay, enough is enough. You either modify your mortgage, which that's what he used to try to help them do in the process. But if the modification wasn't approved, they had to short sell it. And so I would get those listings, amongst of whatever I could get for myself. And so I got a couple attorneys on board, and a couple attorneys would send me their short sales. And I would work them myself. And then he ended up hiring people on staff to negotiate the short sales. So I ended up teaching them how to do it. And then that just helped out tremendously because it freed up so much time. And he had the resources, so I didn't have to worry about having this super, Superman fax machine and all this other stuff. Like, he had the resources in a position. So it was really good, but we had to shift with the market. So the message here is, one, find a mentor. Gene said it. I think that's great. Tune into our coaching every Thursday, the freedomorganizationcoaching.com. Tune into that every Thursday and learn something, right? Yep. And here's the better part. When you learn something, go do it.
Yeah, and find yourself a mentor that's actually changed with the market, right? Not to put you out there like that, David, but David has shifted with the market, right? You see him on social media. There's a lot of agents or agents that have been in the industry for 30 years, but they're not big on social media. They haven't actually changed or adapted themselves, to the industry. So, find yourself a good mentor, right? Someone that's actually, kind of reinventing themselves constantly, and you can actually see it. I think that's going to be important because if you can go to a 30-year plus mentor, doesn't mean that you're going to be great in this market. So.
It's true. Find somebody you can connect with, I think is what you're trying to say. Somebody that's going to teach you what you need to know to shift in today's market, but you also feel comfortable with their education and you can connect with them where you feel like at the end of the coaching or the training or whatever it is that you attend, you're actually going to go do something about it. Yeah. Because that's really the key, right? Is taking action in your industry. And so you could sit in, I could coach you an hour a day every single day of your life, but if you don't do anything with it, you're not going to succeed. You're not going to find that success. So that's the big thing there. Before we move on to Realtor Safety, I feel like we're about to put out like a, does anyone have anything they'd like to finish up on interest rates or market shifts or tips and tricks for real estate agents out there to stay with the times?
No, you were talking about the rent to own, right? So we actually got an offer on one of the properties that was a rent to own, right? So I think that's going to be a thing now. And Jennyffer mentioned that a little while ago. So can you kind of talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so there are programs out there that treat your offer pretty much like if it was cash. So basically the lender would be guaranteeing the purchase after pre-approving the customer. And the customer basically rents the property for a certain period of time. Usually it doesn't exceed 6 months. It could be 1 month, it could be 3 months, but the idea is by the end of that term, that customer ends up getting all the financing things that they need to get put together in order for them to buy the property off of the
What's the purpose of that, though? Like, what's the purpose? Why would a lender buy the property for you, put you in there as a tenant, let you rent for 6 months, and run the risk that you won't be able to purchase in 6 months? What's...
Well, I think that, in a moving market, obviously they'll be able to sell pretty much at a similar value as what they purchased, and it's the lender themselves, right? The other thing is that they are charging a fee to be able to do this. I can't remember what the fee is specifically, but there is a fee to be able money. So they're making money off of this anyway.
What's the purpose for the, I guess I'm just trying to say, like, at what point in my life as a buyer would that make sense for me?
Well, I've seen it in scenarios where, they really like a property right now and they want to purchase it at this price point right now and take advantage of this interest rate right now. And, that's if it's the shorter term, the 30-day one. They just don't, you know what I mean? And then at the moment they don't qualify, or they have a bankruptcy or something that they're waiting for the term to finish, or a lease. Those things could play into part. They have to move from their lease and they just need a little bit more time to put their finances in order, but they really like the house that they're in, or they live in the property already and they're tenants and they just need a little bit more time to, again, put the finances in order. So
it's a scary situation.
It's a very scary situation.
If you don't get your finances in check, you're fucked.
Yeah. And I think part of that also, I think they probably help you actually win the deal to a certain extent, right? Because it's like the one that we got is a cash offer, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it definitely was used a lot, or is being used a lot with competition, So when you have so many people competing for a property, instead of going above appraised value, they're offering cash, in a lot of cases. And some people find that more valuable than having to deal with the appraisal part, not knowing what the actual value is going to come up to, and hoping for more.
Nice. So. All right. So Realtor Safety, we're not going to spend a lot of time on this, but we used to talk a lot about this when we had our brokerage. We actually did something here at PRMG years ago where we did a self-defense class for agents. And, I think...
Was it here or was it at the office?
It wasn't at this office. It was an older office, and they had a big conference room downstairs. And we did it in the conference room downstairs, and it was cool. It was like a Saturday, and we had people there, and we did some, self-defense stuff to help real estate agents get out of sticky situations. We gave them tips and tricks. And, one of those tips and tricks that I will tell you is, know your customer, request ID, have that on file, let somebody know where you're going is another great tip. Another great tip is not to walk into the house before them, especially if you know the home is vacant. Let them walk in first, let them tour. You stay by a door and have an easy escape. Yeah. You do not need to go in there and say, this is the kitchen, this is the bathroom, this is a bedroom. It's fucking obvious, guys, okay? Everybody knows what a kitchen looks like. No one's going to mistake it for the master bathroom, So, just keep your distance from people you don't know. Be vigilant and looking, look for guns around waistbands and things of that nature. But be extra vigilant and smart about what you're doing. In this case, there was a gentleman who had claimed that he had just moved to the United States and he wanted to buy some properties, and the agent was taking him to see properties, and they pulled out a gun on her.
I think it was a gentleman.
It was a gentleman too. Well, they robbed him. They took the Rolex. They took the some money. They took some other stuff.
Like $40-something thousand.
And guys, you know, I know we're realtors and we want to wear our, you know, Audemars and, you know, our Hublots and shit like that. But save that for a nice dinner somewhere, man. Leave the Hublot at home when you're showing properties to somebody that you don't know. And honestly, I don't care how big and bad in martial arts you are. If somebody whips out a gun on you, it's game over. So just, you know.
That happened to Mike. Mike purchases, you know, homes to flip and stuff. So, and he had somebody actually put a gun on him and took all of his stuff.
It's insanity.
There's no point in fighting that, guys.
No, there's no point in fighting that. Give them what they want. Get the hell out of there. But just, you know, if we could say anything, just be super vigilant. I know our agent, Marlene, who was on the news yesterday, she said there's this little button that she wears around her neck or hangs off her purse. And when she presses the button, it calls 5 people that she pre-registers into the system and 911 and alerts them of where she is. Yeah. So if she feels like she's in danger, she can press that button. And, you know, it's kind of like, you know, the bank has a little button underneath the counter.
Similar.
It's a whole similar system. So I think that's a great
Your phone does that too. I think if you press your phone a certain type of way, it does an SOS emergency thing, and it takes pictures of
what's going on around you and things of that nature.
You know, having to pull out your phone is already a red flag.
Yeah, right, and starting to press buttons, and it starts calling, and it starts doing a lot of stuff. I think the little button is a really good option. Guys, I wish I knew what the name of the button was, but I think we'll put the link in this podcast. So I'll just get the link to the apparatus and put it on the podcast. So you guys can purchase this. And, you know, we bring this up not because it's a fun subject, obviously, but it's a serious subject because realtors they're assaulted all over the country all the time. It's the one profession where you're consistently going with strangers to empty houses to look at them. Yeah. There are realtors out there that have been raped, that have been assaulted, that have been beaten, that have been murdered. Yeah. So, you know, just be careful. Be smart about what you're doing. If it's too dark and you're by yourself and it's just one other person, maybe it's not the time for showings.
Go in your own vehicle.
Go in your own vehicle. Don't give anybody rides anymore. That shit's over. It's not completely
safe. And
unnecessary.
anything happens, you can get sued for that too. So you don't want that.
So just be smart about what you're doing. Yeah. Last but not least, and before we get off the air, I want to talk a little bit about this cancel culture shit that we got going on in the world today. And man, I never talk about culture, politics, or any of that stuff, but this kind of just threw me off. Apparently, they're going to get rid of some emojis. Yep. Because they're hurting people's feelings. Yeah.
And those are my favorite emojis.
The poop emoji is going to be gone.
The middle finger one, too, you know?
The middle finger emoji is going to be gone.
Was that on there on the list?
The thumbs up emoji is going to be gone. Yeah. The heart emoji is going to be gone. The kiss emoji, the lips.
They say it's offensive.
How about the one that's thirsty? You know, the little.
Oh, with the little trip on the side, I'm thirsty or I'm salivating. Like, oh my God.
Well, they're removing the crying laughter one.
Why? But that's what I don't get. Like,
yeah, I mean, look. So the
I just
article.
don't see where it's offensive.
The article got into, you know, like the thumbs up. It can be looked at as sarcastic, or you know, the kissy lips could be. I don't know. Look, honestly.
So do caps on a text.
Honestly, I might lose a couple fans right now, but I don't think I was the right coach for you anyway. Stop the bullshit, man. This is ridiculous. An emoji is hurting your feelings that much that you have to excommunicate it from the phone keyboard. Like, stop.
Yeah, it's like saying
this is ridiculous already. If it hurts your feelings, don't fucking use it. Yeah. You know, I just, you know, I don't want to get too deep into this because I do have some feelings about it. You know, I spent
look at things in a negative fashion? You know, there was a comment I heard, something about optimistically offensive. Like, what is optimistically offensive?
What does that even mean? What does it even mean?
Exactly.
Like, you're
that's like a fucking oxymoron.
But that's what I'm saying. That's like, you know how sometimes you put your caps lock when you're trying to make a point? Right?
Yeah. Now you're yelling at somebody.
So what are you going to do? You're going to cancel caps lock too? You know what I'm saying? Like,
at this point, we're going to be mute.
Look, guys, I come from a different generation. In my generation, if you didn't like something, you stayed the fuck away from it. If you don't like doing something, you didn't do it. If you didn't approve of what people did, you stayed away from them. And it was just, that was it. You
that's why I like
to force your agenda on everybody else.
Yeah, and that's why I like comedy so much, right? Because it's so raw, right? People
but
keep
even comedy is getting scrutinized.
Yeah, they keep trying, but it's very hard.
I just think Tony Robbins is delivers a message. He says you have control of your own emotions, and I'm going to say that goes a long way. That goes a long way in your business. You have control on how you feel. If you're bored or not bored, or if you're excited about a task or not, you have control of that. You can actually shift it and change it, right?
That's right.
And equally, if somebody sends you something that could potentially be in an offensive manner because they intended it that way, you have control of taking it that way or not. Where do you take control and accountability for your own feelings and actions? Like, stop throwing up your feelings on other people.
If somebody wants to be disrespectful to you, they don't need the flipping emoji. They can just write the words. Are we going to cancel English now?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm saying.
And that was their argument. They said, "Oh, why do we have to use emojis? People can just use their words." Oh, yeah, because that's going to make a difference.
Yeah, no, the words will be super offensive.
Yes,
super offensive. Well, anyway, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, guys, because honestly, it's way off the subject. I use emojis on my emails. Yeah, I do too. My mass emails go out with emojis. Like, it is what it is. Look, guys, I know this is off subject, but I just thought we would have some fun with it. And the reality is that it's just not necessary to care so much about what other people are doing. Focus on you. Focus on your advancement. Focus on your mindset. Be you. Stop worrying about what the fuck everybody else is doing. If you can just focus on being you, you will be the best version of yourself ever.
100%.
And if you can focus on yourself and not worry about what the rest of the world is doing, nothing else will matter. Not the news, not the groups, not the emojis. Nothing else will matter. You take care of you and the people closest to you. That's it for us today, guys. Thank you very much for tuning in. I hope that was a valuable lesson to you guys. Love the emoji. And we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye-bye, guys.